Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Innocente Burger and I'm from a company called Perform Forward. I see people are still joining the room, but I think we're going to start getting cracking. I just wanted to find out, can everyone just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear? Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Ahmed. Lovely to see you all here. And I see we've got a couple more people. Lungili, you joining. Welcome everyone. But as we join, I'm going to start getting going with our presentation. There's so much I want to share with you today, so there's not a moment to be wasted. Right, perfectly. So firstly, conversations to create engaged employees. I think we've all heard so much about engagement and employee engagement, and now it's become customer engagement. And well, you know, the long and the short of it still is, it comes down to a ring. Right? What does engagement mean to most of us? It merely means that we are going to go into some form of a committed relationship where we are going to partner with others to build on a future together. Well, you see, that's what happens when you give someone a ring, but it also happens when you actually hire someone, because the idea is that there's going to be a partnership of mutual understanding, of mutual collaboration, of mutual advantage, right? No one said we actually have to create this advantage for employees to be successful as companies. Right, so now that I've explained the basics to you in really basic terms, let's take a look firstly at what does it mean when we say someone is engaged in the business context. And for any of you that have kids and that have specifically teenagers or youngsters who love sitting playing games, have you ever tried to get them to do their homework or clean up their room? It's now an impossible, right? Because why? Because what happens is they are engaged. Firstly, and let's start with the purple block in the middle. In that game, and I'm specifically speaking about these really immersive games, they feel that they belong within the team, that they feel they belong to something bigger than themselves in this game. So even if they're fighting alone, essentially they are fighting on behalf of something bigger than themselves. Then, next up, let's go to the dot on the left, the green one. They are free to be openly passionate about what they're doing. So they get to school and it's like, did you play this game? Did you see this? Did you see that there's now a new sword, a new saber, a new tiger, a new whatever? It's part of an extended organization or community, and they can go in there and they can brag about being good. Unlike what we see when we get to businesses, where we sometimes don't allow people to shine as much. Right? Then, sorry, I just want to grab a swallow of water. And because they have this love and acceptance of each other in this team, because they've got this community they can brag to and tell them how well they did, and they can be passionate about this stuff, and they get, you know, rewarded socially for being in that zone. And the other thing that happens is they want to go the extra mile. So they want to play the next game and the next game and the next game. And so it carries on going until they get to a point where they're so immersed that we battle to get them out from behind these darn computers. Now, I remember my mom saying she wishes that I'd study as hard as what I'd be prepared to spend time with my friends. So different example, same thing, right? The thing is, how do we create this in organizations? How do we create the sense of belonging, the sense of community, the sense of I'm working for something bigger than just myself? How do we create this environment where we can be passionate, where it's okay to be gung-ho? And then at the same time, how do we support people in wanting to go the extra mile? Wanting to support this team and do what's best for the team and do what's best for the company or the project, wherever they are. So this is the goal of employee engagement. And I just want to say at this point, and I have a YouTube channel called Performance Cafe, and I think episode 18, 19, somewhere around there, I spoke about what is the nature of employee engagement. It's a 6 or 7 minute clip. And then in a separate clip, I speak about the importance of trust in these kinds of relationships, because part of creating this is about having a trust within the organization where people feel they can come, they can do, they can be, they can expand into how great they potentially could be. You know, they're fulfilling all of their potential. But now, this is always seen as a soft and fluffy stuff, right? Let's take a look at why is this even important to me as a business person. And if I can just ask in the chat, don't you guys just want to just give me a yes if you own a business or if you are responsible for managing a team? So my perspective is I want to know how many of you are there that are going to really understand the impact on a team of this. So it's not just about yourself, it's about a broader picture. Can you let me know? And then I can grab another swallow of water because I've got a cough this morning. Oh, none of you? Right, so am I to understand that everyone here works entirely independently? Aha, there the yeses come through. Thank you, Ilza, Michelle, Richard, Mongani. Okay, perfect. Christelle. Christelle, I love the spelling of your name. 2 S's, 2 L's. Thank you so much. Oh, Hugo, you as well. Thank you so much. Okay, perfect. So then you're in the right place, because the one thing I do want us to do is I want to be sure that for the next 50 odd minutes, I have your attention and that what I'm telling you adds value. And in order to do that, I think we need to take a look at why the heck would we want to do employee engagement? And this is Gallup research. I think this research was from 2014. They've got a new research poll out this year. The numbers work out to be roughly the same. What we see is when we increase people's need to be at a place, give them that attachment to something bigger, and then to take it and sort of exponentially use that to make them go the extra mile, not to make them, but to help them go the extra mile. From that perspective, what we get is a 22% increase in profitability. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I had a 22% increase of profitability in some of the teams I had, well, I'd be a multinational by now, because it all comes down to that, right? Yes, I want people to be happy and fulfilled where they work. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't come down to the numbers, then unfortunately, it's not a sustainable answer. Now, how do we get to 21% increase in profitability? So we take a look and we see there's a 21% increase in productivity. Why? Because when we have engaged employees, they work more, harder, better on their own, without us having to drag them there. And that to me is so meaningful, because I think we underestimate the amount of time that we spend as managers having to help people along, get them unstuck, get them out of trouble. Doesn't mean we mustn't spend time with them, but it does mean that the quality and the value of the time we spend with them is very different. It also increases a 10% customer rating. Right, so what does that mean? Simon Sinek, almost forgot his name. Simon Sinek is known for saying that your customers won't love your organization until your employees do. And this is what happens. If they're happy at work, it spills over. Because what happens is most people don't enjoy selling, but most people like raving about something that they know works. And so all of a sudden, the tea lady, the customer service agent, everyone starts speaking positively about the environment. And that builds up to this perception or the understanding of how good the business is. And because of that, customers get enthused, because if the people inside love it, they'll love it as well. Other ways that we achieve that 22% is the decrease in shrinkage, which is very important in larger organizations, specifically those in the manufacturing and resources areas. It decreases absenteeism. I've got a bigger number here that I'm so upset that they don't have captured here. Something worse than absenteeism is actually presenteeism. And presenteeism is people who pitch up at work, they stay at work and they leave, but they haven't really given their best. So they've barely given you what you're paying for in those 8 hours. We call these people disengaged, right? decrease in quality defects, decrease in patient safety incidents, decrease in turnover, decrease in safety incidents. Now, I don't know about you guys, but decrease in turnover is a big thing, especially in our professional services, because it's so expensive to keep someone or to train someone, and then the hiring process in and of itself, the onboarding process in and of itself, that takes so much time that we're trying to condense the costs there, and we're trying to get rid of turnover, so whatever we're investing there is going to stick. Right. Does any of this make sense to you guys? Just give me a yes if it's hitting home with you, and please ask questions in the chat as I go along. Don't wait for me to stop. I talk a lot. So stop, interrupt. I'm quite happy that we just take questions as they come through. Perfect. Thank you, my daughter. Christelle says her mom was very strict about the spelling of her name. I can imagine. Okay, thanks, Inga. Right, so I've got attention. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little exercise of our own. So this assessment I often do with my clients when I get on site with them. So just focusing on the left-hand side of the page initially, I'd like you to take a look at quickly give me the, sorry guys, I was checking the comments. I shouldn't do that. List your top 3 business challenges that you have right now. Most likely, you're going to have logistical issues around coming and going at the office. Who is where? Are we remote? Are we not? We're seeing a lot of that. The other thing is we're going to see a lot of very poor, very low motivation, and we're going to see a lack of sort of like collaboration, a lack of partnering from clients. But just write down your top 3. I'm not going to ask you guys to give me any answers from this page because it's going to include some confidential information. And then once you've popped down those 3, I'd like to ask you to write down what your annual revenue is. You can use the currency of your choice because that's where you're going to get hit hardest because of those top 3 business challenges. There we go. Then next up, what percentage of that revenue depends on the activities of your employees? Now, the question I'm asking here is, do you have a business that literally just ticks over because of automation, or are you dependent on employees to sell products, service clients, do customer success work, that kind of stuff? Right? What percentage of that annual revenue is dependent on the individuals in your organization? Next one is easy. How many employees do you have? And then the last one, I'd like you to divide the revenue of the employee count to get an average amount per employee. And what I'd really like to see is that you include everyone in your business. So even people who you don't think of as responsible for direct sales or direct earnings, I would like to encourage you to add all of those so that you understand that the number that you've gotten to is your cost per employee, or your revenue, per employee. Now, what I'm about to share with you is going to put a bit of a damper on that number, most unfortunately. And here, I'd like to shout out to Lungile Dlamini, who already has preempted a part of my conversation with you today. And Lungile and I would like to talk to you about the levels of engagement in an organization. So those people that we have and how much work we get out of them. And we call that discretionary effort, right? It's about how much they're prepared to give. So there's a purple dot. And the purple dot are the movers and the shakers. They are the people in your organization who are really rocking it. They're the guys that you phone late at night because the client has a problem and you've got to go and salvage what can be salvaged or whatever the case may be. They're the guys that come in early. They're the guys that leave. They're the guys that leave late at night. And so these are the guys that we consider to be actively engaged. Then we've got a group They're about at the steering wheel in that tealy greeny color, turquoise at least, and they are the group that are engaged. They're just engaged, right? They're going to come, going to do their work, they're going to leave, they're not going to add anything more. You're not going to be making money out of these people because they're not adding enough value. They're doing their work, but they're not adding enough value to actually make a difference. And then there in the Fenter trailer at the back, you'll see there's an orange dot. And those are the actively disengaged people in the organization, right? Now, what we're seeing is that shockingly, before I give you the metrics, let's quickly do this. You'll see underneath the little card, there's another exercise. It says complete the exercise by indicating how many of your employees fall into each of the categories. So how many are in the car, in the engine, and in the trailer? Write that down and then work out the portion of revenue represented by those percentages. And it would be interesting to see what number you come out to. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to scan the comments quickly. Okay. Mungani, you wrote, how do you manage this exercise when you have a number of external service providers? So it works exactly the same because you've got a certain amount of people, or if you want to, you can count them as companies, and each company helps you win a certain portion of your revenue. I think it's just really important then to understand that maybe at that point you're going to not work on just revenue. You might have to work on profit because they're going to take quite a chunk of what you're earning. Okay, right. So now that you've done that, I want to give you some of the metrics that we have. Now, these jump around a little bit, but in general, we're taking a look at the purple button. The purple little dot only comes to about 18 to 20% of your workforce at any point in time. And that's been the same for about the past 3-4 years, right? So 20% of your salary bill is making 80% of the difference. Then the orange dot is about 40%. It sometimes hops up to about 40-45, but 50% of your salary bill, therefore, brings in nothing whatsoever. In fact, those might be the people that are actually detracting from the organization through to due to bad attitude, that absenteeism, that kind of stuff. It actually sucks the life from the employees in the organization who actually want to do something. And then the rest, so we've got 40 odd, we've got 20 odd, sorry, the other 40 are in the car and they're engaged, but they're not shooting the lights out. They are just making sure that things tick over. So I want you to just take a moment to reflect what you thought you were getting from your employees. The numbers I've just given you, is there a gap? And has it given you pause for thought, or do you think you're quite on target with the gap? Anyone want to just give me a quick, I'm on target, or heck no? Just so we have an idea. I'm not going to ask you for any of the details. Right, so while we wait for those to come through, the first thing that I'd like us to take a look at is management style. So we're going to move into the solution part now. And I'm not going to go into each and every aspect of this because we just don't have enough time. But I think one of the biggest things is, and again, this was a YouTube, this is on YouTube in Performance Cafe. I think we lead like it's 1820. In 1820 is sort of the recorded start of the Industrial Revolution in Britain specifically. But what happened there is people that had work that was very structured, that was very repetitive. People had very, sorry, Karen, thank you for that question. I'm going to come back to it now. So people had very structured, very routine work. And part of the problem there was that because of that and a low education, people were treated like robots. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but people were basically told, you do this little bit, and you just do it over and over and over again. And it was actually the safest thing to do with them, because all of a sudden people working with huge machines that maybe would have, hurt them. I mean, that occupational health and safety really didn't even exist at that point in time. So what happened was that leadership style led to command and control, where you do as I say, or else you will get hurt. So please just do as I say. Employees were treated as human doings, not human beings. What I mean with that is the only value they brought was their ability to repetitively do the same thing over. Work was not heuristic. There wasn't problem solving. There was a machine. The machine was running. You just stay out of the way of the machine. And when it's, a lot of it was textile. So when the spindle is finished and all the material was up, you remove it and you start the process again, right? There was no major problem solving. It's not the kind of work we do today. Because of the social disparity, because of a lack of education, hierarchy, seniority was very important. So therefore, if I'm the manager, I'm more important than you. Now we have managers who hire people who are more important than them or who know more than them, because they have to build the best skills base that they can, right? So because of this, transparency wasn't needed. Well, they thought it wasn't needed. Why? Because we had the situation where people weren't educated. So it took too long to explain everything. So just do as I say, okay? You can see how that's caused a ripple over the century, over the years, over the decades. And then because of this, people weren't valued as people. So motivation wasn't needed. They didn't go, oh, you come to work, it's going to be a great thing. No, they came, you here, I pay you for 8 hours, I pay you for so many widgets, therefore you will be here. If you're not here, you don't get work, you don't get paid. Again, no labor law. So that didn't work too well. Right? Then next up, how do we solve this? Sorry, guys, I just have 2 questions. Let's quickly take a look at those. Lungile asks, please clarify if the stats you have shared pertain to employees across all levels or lower levels. So, Lungile, you're not going to believe me. It's across all levels. And part of the problem, there's a Chinese saying that says the fish rots from the head. That's part of the problem, is that because it's so much effort to employ people and to keep them going when you're not connected to them, when you don't understand what they need, or do what I'm going to tell you in the rest of the deck, it's actually more difficult for managers than for anyone else. We assume that people like the CEO, the MD, the C-suite guys, we assume they have a lovely time. They actually don't. They have their own set of challenges. And I'm hoping in this to make the challenges for everyone a lot easier. Karen Dolly, you asked, can we ask our employees directly where they believe they fit in the engagement category? Yes and no. So I think we can do an engagement survey for you, in which we ask questions. And from those questions, we get an idea of where they are. But no one's actually going to put up their hand and admit that they are demotivated, unless there's a heck of a lot of trust, in which case you can just well get off the call because you're already doing probably everything that's in the presentation. But we can do a survey, and from that we'll understand where everyone lies. We've had great results with those already. Right, next. So, motivation. If I've missed it, I'm sorry if someone said that an issue that they felt everyone had was motivation. But I'd like to take you through the slide in any way. 1943, Abraham Maslow took a different look at motivation. Now, before Mr. Maslow came along, people believed that we basically are a set of behaviors, and that there's all of our interactions, our behaviors, our decisions. That's the word I'm looking for, sorry. The decisions that we make are based on these very sort of preset up dynamics and algorithms. And because of that, all behavior was mechanistic, right? If you do this, that'll happen. If you do this, that'll happen. Right. Maslow comes along and says, well, not really. Because actually, people are more than just these low-level needs that drive them. So, for example, how would money influence someone? Well, it's easy. We have physiological needs at the bottom of his triangle, and he says we need air, water, food, shelter, all the basic stuff, right? Without money, we don't have that. So money is very important, right? We can see this. Next up, we have safety needs. So that's personal security, that is employee, so that is having job security. It's about having resources, health, property, and the ability to have these things and secure them. So it's about, if I have a small house, it must still have doors and windows and locks on them, right? And that is money drives that, so it makes sense, right? Now, that was the world before Abraham Maslow. He then came along and he said, hold on, people want more. And the next 3 levels is the more. And the next 3 levels is where we find real engagement. Because when I pay someone, I'm buying motivation. The next 3 levels, I pay for them to become intrinsically motivated. It's not about the money, it's about other stuff. Firstly, we have love and belonging. So love and belonging in a business is knowing that I belong to the team, knowing that the team has taken me in, and this is specifically why we run such long onboarding processes in companies, is to bring that new person in and say, hey, you're part of the family, you're connected. Come to us, we'll make sure there's always someone that knows the answer to your question. Next up, we've got esteem and importance. So love and belonging has been there for a while, and now love and belonging wants something more. And this person starts achieving and they start showing their value and their worth. And then they become respected and they have self-esteem in this organization. They have some form of status and they start getting a bit of recognition and freedom, right? They start getting a little bit of autonomy. So this is starting to sound like that first slide. And then thirdly, there's self-actualization. Now, an easy example of this is the like of Bill Gates and all of them who go and say, right, we'll give away large portions of our fortune. Let's go and save the earth with the rest. Why? They're not going to buy smaller homes and drive smaller cars, right? That's too much to expect. But what we see is that to them, they've understood that money only goes that far, that the environment, the ecology, society, that's what drives us. We have to be a community. We have to connect. And so at that point, we self-actualize. Now, how does this all come together? It comes together as this. If you remember nothing else from today, please remember this image. On the left-hand side, we've got belonging and social ties. That's one part of engagement. The other part is self-esteem and importance, right? Remember the 3rd and the 4th level. But this ties back to engagement by, look at the wording that's used on the left-hand side. Now, remember, we're talking about someone who's fairly new in the business or they're new to a role. So they're still feeling a little uncertain. They're saying, I know I'm part of something bigger that makes me feel good. I care about what others think of me. We love that because that means people will play for the team. I'm so proud to work here, but I feel shy to share that. And that's fine because they're new, right? They're still busy learning the trust. The hand shows I understand how my contributions make a difference. And lastly, I've managed to get a small amount of autonomy. Look at that trust building, right? Little bit by little bit. When we say give autonomy to people for engagement, we don't say just give them everything, but we are saying little by little bit, as is appropriate to their role and their tenure, just give them more, just give them more. Now, that person is ideally suited, and if we can keep them engaged, they can flip very quickly to value adding. And value adding is really where we want to play, especially in the professional services where we've got our employees going out to our clients on their own, where we have clients interacting directly with employees and employees having to make technical recommendations on the fly, right? Because we want them to know that they're vital to the business. Because if I'm vital to the business, I am appreciated. If I'm appreciated, I'm not going to drop it. I'm not going to drop the team. I'm an achiever. I see myself as someone who is out there being successful, doing this. Half of disengagement, I believe, is the messages that we give to people about how bad they are. Because if you tell someone they're wrong often enough, then you are creating disengagement because they feel like I can't get to the top of this. If you ask them why what they've delivered has not met your expectations, totally different conversation, because you have your perspective, they have theirs. And when we ask questions, the words come together to build a bridge. So let's rather build the bridge and find out why things are happening, rather than just saying to people, you've done this wrong. Right? The next one, I feel important at work and I can make a difference. Why is it that so many people become workaholics? Very often because they're much better at being employees than they are at being spouses and parents, right? So I stay at work. Why? Because I'm immersed in that. I have a coaching client who does that. She had a very big problem with work. It just runs her life. She was working 18, 20-hour days. And when we actually went and looked at it, we found that she was opting into all the stuff because it was so rewarding, where there wasn't a lot of other stuff in her life that was rewarding. And that's a coaching client. And we could do some beautiful stuff once we got to that point. Right? Next, I appreciate my coworkers and have some close relationships. The myth that we are independent is truly that, a myth. So what we need to do is we need to take a look at how do we honor introverts and extroverts so that we all work together, so that we have that connection, that we can build those relationships, but that we allow people time on their own so that they have time for quiet reflection and for deep work, right? Then at the bottom, I have a reasonable amount of autonomy because it's starting to grow as I'm more trusted. So what we want to do is we want to start people on the track of belonging and social ties, and then we want to get them to self-esteem and importance. Why? Because that's where we're going to make that 20% more profit or 22% more profit that Gallup has reported. Right. Now that was all background. I haven't told you how to do this yet. I'm still on the what we need to do. So let's take a look at how we do this. And I'm going to start off with a story. I'm first going to have a swallow of water. Sorry, I just want to see for comments. Right. So I want to start off with a story. Imagine you're going to travel. Now, I've used the story 1,000 times, but it's odd how much more meaningful it is now that we can't travel. And you're going to go to the country of Ekamok. You are going to go on holiday, and it's you and whoever's important to you is going to go with, and you've saved for this for years. How do we take care of that? How do we make that happen? Firstly, you're going to buy an airline ticket. Well, actually, if you do what I did, is you go to a travel rep and you say to them, please will you set me up for this trip? I want the best of everything. Just book it all, make it happen. This is the once in a lifetime journey. And she'll come to you with a beautiful travel wallet. Mine was fake leather, but sometimes you have enough money and they actually come to you with, you've spent so big, you've got a proper leather travel wallet. And in the first compartment is the ticket, right? What's your destination? When are you going there? What is the gate that you need to exit at and such, right? And of course, when you're coming back. The second pocket is about customs and practices that you need to keep. So, for example, I went to a country where I had to close up my arms. I couldn't show my neck, couldn't show my arms. And so in order to fit in with that environment and not overstep or offend anyone, she gave me a little letter that said, you've always got to eat with your left hand, if I remember correctly. Yes, it was with my left hand. Always eat with your left hand, cover up, and so on and so on and so forth, right? The next pocket of the travel wallet had emergency numbers for me. So it was the hotel where we'd been, we had reservations, the biggest restaurants where we had reservations, all of the details on the places that we were going to go and visit, like tickets to theme parks and things. And then in the fourth pocket, there was some indication of currency. So what is their currency? How does it work? What is the exchange rate? That kind of thing. Right. So ticket, the practices, the important numbers, and the cash. Now, odd as it may sound, that's exactly what we need to reach employee engagement. Now, the following is going to exclude foosball tables and bought lunches, because a lot of people think employee engagement gets bought by pretty colored walls. Look, a nice environment is never bad, but pretty colored walls or team buildings, I'm all for those, but that also only lasts so long. But I've had the saturation of going to clients and going, employee engagement doesn't work because the people get tired of the food in the canteen. They stop using the gym that we at great expense added into the offices for them. They complain, the guys that eat healthy complain about the food that's not healthy. The guys that eat unhealthy complain the food is too healthy. The foosball table eventually becomes where everyone goes and hangs out and smokes the whole time, and therefore it takes people away from work. It doesn't take them there. The reason why those things don't work is because people still aren't engaged to their work. They engaged to this trivia that's been added to the area. So how do we get this done? Well, we're going to take the wallet and we're going to fill their wallet with high quality stuff. So the airline ticket is basically the strategy of the business. I cannot tell you how much time I spend in organizations looking for the strategy. And the reason for that is because normally it is seen as only the purview of the top management to know. Remember that hierarchy and structure thing from the 1820s? So only management is supposed to know what the strategy is. Only the CEO or the MD actually has the strategy pasted up in their wall, or maybe if there's a place like an exec's coffee room, then it's in there. Well, if you're not giving people direction, they're not going to know where to go. People cannot be engaged to perform if you don't tell them where they're going. Right? Makes sense to everyone? How would you like it if you, pitched up at your office and went, okay, you have a secretary. You walk into the office and you say to the secretary, right, what are my meetings for today? And she goes, don't know what you need to do, so I don't know who to book meetings with. It's in essence what we do. Now, I know that we have got yet again this whole situation of people don't understand, right? Professional services businesses do not have that excuse, because the people that we employ are not generally educated enough that we actually can explain a strategy to them. The other part of it as well is, of course, that if you can't explain your strategy to your team members, it's not refined enough. We don't often think of it that way. We expect strategies to have these like big consulting words in them. I'm trying really hard to drop one today and they've all run away from me. But it's really important that we break this down for people. And I go as far as saying to managers, break it down to your teams, and team leads, break it down to each person individually. And the reason for this is because each one of them is contributing to the revenue. So every time I say to someone, you're not important enough to do the strategy or to know the strategy, then I'm saying to that person, I'm prepared to have you sit there and I will pay you not to do whatever it is that you were supposed to be doing if I told you. And this is an incredibly important point. And a lot of people go, oh, I'm too small a business for a strategy. Strategy is just a set of goals. It's just about how we're going to go. And strategies are becoming entirely compact given the rate of change and uncertainty in our world nowadays. I must talk about that because I'll go off on a tangent on strategy. But it's really important. And I just want to give you one example. Sorry, I am checking the time nicely. I want to give you one example of someone who said to me, what use is the strategy to the cleaner? Now, it was someone that I knew very well. So I was able to take a bit of a risk, and I called the cleaner into his office and I said to him, tell me, is there something in this environment, in this work environment, that you think could change for the better, that could make it a positive environment, right? And the cleaner turned around and said, well, she was the cleaner, but she also sort of stocked the vending machines and stuff and helped when clients came in and gave them coffee and tea. She said, we've got all these slogans about health on our walls, and there's free fruit put out in the canteen for our employees, and they get smoothies delivered and they get water. But why is it that when guests come, I can only offer them coffee or tea or water? What if I could offer them some fruit? What if I could offer them some juice or a smoothie? Mic drop, right? Because that person is often overlooked in business. They're often invisible. And here's the one person saying to you, what you're singing inside and what you're preaching outside is two different things. So that is how strategy can boil down. That's how it can become the lifeblood of an organization. Right, so we've got our ticket now. We understand where we're going in the organization, and we can create expectations, and we can set proper expectations. Remember, Brené Brown says clarity is kindness. So we can be kind by making sure everyone understands what we expect of them. Next up, well, remember that little paper that said I had to cover my arms and I had to eat with my left hand and who knows what all else? It was a lovely experience, by the way. That's just the same as organizational culture, because I come into this business and I assume I know how to do things. But if you don't tell me what the culture of the organization is, if you don't tell me what the unwritten rules are, well, I prefer no unwritten rules. In my reality, we should have written rules. But how do things work around here? How do we think about things? How do we make decisions? If we don't have an understanding of where that is at, then we're setting someone up for failure from day one. And I'm going to give you a really interesting example. When I started my business 3 years ago, my CEO, bless his soul, my ex-CEO, made sure that I had a contract before I even left the business. He's an amazing guy. And he sold me as this phenomenal person. And I walked in and I was terrible. Why? Because I was phenomenal because I worked for him for a decade. I got the culture. And it was such a difficult move to move from the one culture to the other into a new business where the expectations were different. And until we started talking through organizational culture, how do we think? How do we interact? How do we make decisions? Until we got to that, we couldn't write that organization. I couldn't write that relationship with that client. And so when you do not give your people the guidelines around what do I expect and how do I expect it from you? What's the way we do things around here? If you don't give them that, they can't know. Why? Because they are each different genders, different ethnicities. They speak different languages. They come from different places. They have different areas of specialization. They have different personalities and they have different strengths. Actually, it's physically impossible for anyone to know what anyone else wants because we are all so different. So I always think, and I really get upset when little companies say to me, oh, we're too small for a culture. That's exactly when you lay it down, because that is when it is beautifully clear, because there are few people and they're living it because it spontaneously came to be. Then we capture it so that as we grow and scale, because as you guys know, we grow and scale from 5 to 10 to 20 to 25. It doesn't happen gradually. That we don't break the culture, that we don't lose the culture that created this winning entity, because it had to be winning in order for it to scale. Right, next up, the currency. So I love my example of the currency, because what that currency told me in my, beg your pardon, let me just get some water again, sorry guys. What that currency told me in my wallet was, how do I take something and spend it wisely? What is the return on investment I'm going to get for that activity? Now, if I know where I'm going and if I know how the business works and what the culture is and how we do things around here, then I understand where to spend my currency, which is the effort I put into my work. Then I know, okay, apparently it's entirely fine to miss Friday afternoon drinks because we're delivering to the clients, because that's the way we do it here. Or actually, no, you will not miss Friday afternoon drinks because the company values engagement and socialization. And so you will make sure that you either finish it before or you will make arrangements with the client that it'll get finished later, or whatever the case may be. Because I've had situations, I managed a group of a team of ladies globally, and they managed, between the three of us, we managed 125 global marketing consultants, right? all of them were working virtually to their clients, and we were managing them remotely as well. They were all over the world. And what I saw there was how one contractor who literally rocked, she was phenomenal. She was at the same client for years and years and years, and everyone loved and appreciated her. She was the one that always got an increase. How it fell apart, because when she moved to a new team, she was putting her investment into stuff that she had thought was appropriate for her role. And later they came back and said, well, you were supposed to do it, but actually not in that order. And all of a sudden, this trailblazer, this incredible person, got the shock of their life because they didn't understand that expectation. Again, it's just an expectation. And where am I going to put my hard-earned efforts? And then the last one, and I think this is one of the most important and where I prefer to start working with companies, is the emergency contact numbers. Now, those emergency contact numbers actually allude to the management team. They are so crucial because I can write down a strategy and I can define a culture. If my leadership cannot sustain, communicate, and move people towards that using or towards a strategy using the culture, then it all breaks. It all breaks, and you can as well throw the whole wallet away. So for me, the importance is about how do we set up leadership to win? How do we remove the drudgery and the micromanagement? How do we empower them to manage people who can manage themselves, who are empowered? And how do we take that leadership component and make them the walking, talking essence of what the company should be and look like, so that the people who are looking from the bottom up clearly understand exactly what the playing field is, and they then want to work. They want to go the extra mile. They want to have autonomy. They want to actually have mastery. And mastery is the ultimate key, is that people want to understand what they're doing and know what they're doing and become really good at it and be known for it. And that, in a nutshell, is the 4 steps to achieving motivation and engagement as I've explained it to you. I hope you've enjoyed that, and if there aren't any questions to date, you can give those questions through now. Sorry, here is Rashid Khan. You said COVID challenges, HSE, depressed market, and low workload, and poor retention. Okay, understand. I understand that. Right, someone wants to speak. Let's see. I've got you there, Lungili. Yes. Michelle. Sorry, guys, did I just kill that connection? Lungile, if you want to, maybe you can pop that. Maybe you can pop that into a question. Right, so here we've got some questions. Right, how do we manage motivation and engagement when there is low work mode? I think the first thing is to try and understand why there's low work mode. If someone has been broken down, they're not likely to give their best. What I like to do there is to start with small steps. And I've actually been telling a lot of clients to do this now with COVID. So many people are currently in low work mode, not because of anything that's happening at the office, but just because of this pervasive, threatening, sort of like humdrum around COVID. What I've told them to do is set smaller goals over smaller periods of time so that people can have lots of little bites at success. And then as we build people's confidence and as people feel like, okay, we're getting back into some form of rhythm, then we can open those up over a period of time. The other thing around low work mode is, I wrote about this in a blog for Perform Forward, where I said, dear manager, please understand this is work from home, it's not remote work. Because what people are going through now, it's easier now that the kids are back at school, but what they've been through has been really tough, right? Working from home, 1 or 2 parents, multiple kids. My dog couldn't go to daycare. That almost broke me psychologically because he's very busy. So I think we must just also understand that there's empathy to be had there. And I think there's a conversation to be had where instead of saying, oh, you have low work mode, come and say, well, how do you feel about your performance this year? What do you think were the contributing factors? Which of those do you think the business could help you with? But which of those do you think you could help you with? I think it's always important to remember that we are adults speaking to adults. We often want to either speak down to employees or we want to take responsibility for them. And it's all about accountability. The moment that you remove accountability from people, you immediately lose them. They will not be motivated to work hard. So in a nutshell, sorry, that was a very high level answer, but there you go. Munkhane Mokunyane, I hope I said your name right, who ultimately is responsible for monitoring levels of employee engagement? So that's a difficult one to answer, and I'll tell you why. Because textbook, it's got to be the manager, because your manager is there to support you and carry you through any battles you have. So let me just contextualize that. I believe in employees setting their own goals and telling managers or informing managers how are they going to get to achieve this goal. And the managers have to check this and verify it and make sure it's possible and that it's valuable and that kind of stuff. But I think for me, the driving force is how do we get employees to pitch up and take ownership? And for me, ownership is, team, this is what we need to achieve. What are you going to contribute as each individual to get us there? Then they build a formal goal each, maybe 1 or 2, depending the complexity of the matter. The manager is not there to micromanage that work, and employees should do that work on their own and they should work independently. But I think it's very important that we understand that sometimes employees do not have the experience, the knowledge, or the status within an organization and they get stuck. And I've seen this happen so many times where a person was not a low performer. A person was just asked to do something, which when they went and asked other people for information or for content, they go, it's above your pay grade. We can't give it to you, right? There, managers have to help and support. Not every single day to carry them through every single day, but the highlights of where I've tried 3 different things and I really can't get this right? At that point, managers support. But I believe we all are responsible for employee engagement. And I'll tell you why. Because if I'm unhappy in my role, I'm the one that gets damaged. I might still get my pay, but I go home, I'm in a bad mood to my family, I'm in a bad mood because I feel like I'm not adding value. So there is to me a huge accountability for me, myself as an employee to say, right, am I happy where I am? Am I fulfilled? Am I giving my best? Am I adding value? Okay, if no to any of these, what do I need to shift? What do I need to change? Okay, so Karen, you've got based on previous workloads that were exceptionally busy. How do we manage motivation engagement when is in low work mode? Based on previous workloads that were exceptionally busy. So an interesting thing about that right now, and this is a COVID specific thing, is I have found that my clients have done really well by reviewing what expected performance would have been over the past couple of months, identifying the gap, but then in identifying the gap, seeing how was it resolved. So for example, there were people who delivered the same output, but didn't adapt to the COVID environment. So the volume was the same, but the quality wasn't the same. where some people are delivering less work, higher quality, but because they went and said, okay, we have got kids running around, we've got this, we've got that, we've got remote work, some of the stuff I need is still at the office, so I need to go in every once in a while. Okay, how do I build this new puzzle? So therefore, adaptability and the ability to learn and find a new way of doing things became the performance measure over this period. And now that we hopefully coming out of the woods, now the discussion is, okay, performance level was low. I understand why. This is where we started. This is what we put up with. This is how I saw you deal with it. How are we going to get you back on track? What is it that you think you can do and what do you need? So we really need to get out of this. And it's so interesting. I spend a lot of time with futurists and their whole point is that there actually is no normal. There is only the present, and that we constantly have to evaluate what is performance, what is success. Is this business working? Is this business still relevant? Because it's changing so fast. And so from that perspective, we can't go before you did this, now you did this, and do a straight comparison. We've got to go before, after, okay, rigamajig, what worked, what doesn't work. We're not sure where we're going to go. How do we use that going forward? Right. Thank you, Christian. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. Right, it seems like that is the end of our questions. We're on minute 56. And I just wanted to make available to you, I have a special offer. This particular course, this deck is part of a larger course that I run. And it is called also Employee Conversations to Engage Employees. And what I'm going to do is on the 25th, I'm going to run a 3-hour session with the toolkit that comes with this. And I'm going to take people through it independently. We're going to do a lot of team work, a lot of group work, a lot of talking. It's going to be a very practical session. If anyone would like to sign up, it is 300 Rand for those 3 hours. The reason why it is so cheap is because I'd like you to bring 1 or 2 people from your business with you so that when you're going through this process, that you actually have people in your organization or people around you, maybe a business coach or something that understands your business and can help you talk through all of these. I just want to make sure, can everyone see? I have made the offer available. Can everyone see it? Whoops, sorry, don't want to do that. If there are, it doesn't seem like we have, I'm not getting responses to that. Oh, there we go. Okay, so people are seeing it, right? Lungili, yes, as far as I know, the recording will be made available to you. And thank you for all the lovely messages of people. Oh, thanks, Michelle, you did answer. I'm glad that you guys did see that offer. I'm glad that you found some value in this. It's even a lot more valuable once we get to the practicalities. If you guys would like to reach out to me, you can get the, you can find me on LinkedIn. There's Perform Forward, my business's name. There is Performance Cafe. We will not be sending around the slide deck, but if you were to click on that link with a special offer, the first page, if you click that down, you actually get the whole little toolkit, the first part of it. So Tariq, if you just click on the register button, then you're well on your way as well. All right, thank you, everyone. I don't know if anyone has questions about the course. I'm quite happy to stick around for a couple of minutes and answer that as well. Thank you, Ricardo. We'll see you. It's a pleasure, Christelle. Sorry, guys, I'm just keeping an eye on the comments. Thanks, Thomas. Glad you enjoyed it. Chamanu, what you can do is, don't you just want to grab my LinkedIn profile address? Go on there, connect with me, and then I'll sort out something for you. Chamanu, just tell me if that will suit you, if we connect via LinkedIn. Thank you, Mary Jane. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Right, I think we can probably end off now. I see we're running just on an hour. Thanks, Chamanu. That's good. Michelle, are you happy for me to close this off, or do you need to? Perfect. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the week.